Welcome to the Waste and Recycling Committee. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Note that both directors are here. I looked over the agenda. I'll motion.
Agenda looked great to me. So motion to move, or
Okay.
did you motion?
I motioned it. So
I'll
you'll
second
it?
the motion. I will.
And then she alternates as we go back and forth on things. So.
Okay.
Public comment, do we have anyone?
No public.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Did you get a chance to look over them?
I looked over the minutes and they looked good also, and I will motion to move the minutes.
I'll second that. Okay, review of solid waste events.
Okay, so coming up here pretty quick, June 8th, we're going to have a free tire disposal day. And again, it's 9 tires for residents only, no commercial tires. And if you have any questions, you can call the district office. Brandon, about how many tires did we get at our last collection event?
350, 400.
Okay, so it's slowing down a little bit.
350 to 400, yeah.
Yeah, it's slowing down. I
What-
think
What did we get in the past if it's slowing down?
we used to get about 8,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
So I used to say it's about 1 per resident, and that the actual, you know, like there's a native flower, we have a native tire, like they just grow here. Because I just don't know where these come from.
Be interesting to see a breakdown of what brands are the most common.
Yeah,
Ones
I
get
know.
turned in versus sales.
And again, we don't do any commercial. It's just
That
all
would be what
residential. And
brands wear out
those things
the
come
quickest.
packed full.
Yeah, and so that's it for, you know, upcoming events. We don't have anything. We do these quarterly, and it alternates between just a tire day only or a tire day and a cleanup.
Okay. And next I see this confusing solid waste. It's a draft.
Yeah.
Only one I wanted to add, you mentioned the rocks here. However, in the past, Brandon's mentioned that they could also secure it with a
A bungee cord.
bungee cord, or I'm thinking like a carabiner
Yeah.
even, or something that they could secure it beyond just the rocks. But otherwise, everything looks really good. But that was the only piece I remember that we could possibly
Yeah,
add.
we can add bungee cord. I think the preference is rocks because it's easier to remove, less time. But if people want a bungee cord, they can. But mainly the calls we're getting now are they're picking everything up in one cart, or I'm sorry, one truck. And again, as the flyer explains, there's 2 reasons for that. Either it's the split body or the route's already so contaminated or the cart looks contaminated. They're just going to pick it all up at once because that's going to have to be sorted anyway. So, so then everyone's like, well, then why do I even bother sorting if it's going to be that? Well, it's going to cost more money if we have to send everything to be processed, because this is like a manual sorting process that Brandon and his crew have to do to get the material in a way that they can actually dispose of it at Burtec.
It's satisfying for Burtec.
Yeah, and then once the county's done with their transition, which I don't think it's transitioned yet, they're not going to accept contaminated loads. That's our understanding. So we got to get people doing better. But Brandon, would you say it's getting better?
Oh, yeah. I would say Phelan's getting a lot better. We're seeing, we're able to kind of narrow it down now too. We've started a file where we're taking pictures. So again, we're not lid flipping and we're not auditing. We're not fining. We're not doing anything like that. Remember, because we're never going to do that anyways. But we are noticing if there's contamination, we're taking pictures of it on those certain routes, so we can kind of narrow down what routes are the worst, so that we could put concentration as far as education into that route. But we're seeing things, just to give you an example, somebody put a fold-up lawn chair in the green waste bin or barrel. So
Or a
it's-
vacuum in the green bin?
or a vacuum there, and they run out of room and they just throw it in there and think it's no big deal. But again, if you got, like we talked about, 20% of the route doing that, then it really ruins the rest of the route, because now you have a completely blended truck that we're trying to take to Burtec, and they'll reject the whole load. They'll take the whole load if it's contaminated, and it all goes to the trash and they reject it, and then they hit us with the bill for it. So we're trying to keep the rates down, which is our biggest thing, but also make sure that we're recycling properly. But it is getting better. We're seeing people properly put them out there, using the barrels the best way that they know how to. It's just the stragglers that we're going to narrow down. And we're doing that by building that file with those pictures to show contamination, and we'll use that for education.
Yeah, and they ordered custom tags for our community. So if they see something, it's just a courtesy like, hey, you put this in the wrong one, call us if you have questions, and then there's some information on how to sort. And the big thing, I think, Director Phillips, you heard the same thing I did when we went down to see R&R, is that if you don't have it listed on that flyer and you're not sure which container it goes into, just put it in the trash.
When in doubt, put it in the trash, is what
When
they
in
say.
doubt, just put it in the trash. And I think that's going to solve most of the sorting questions that we get. Again, we're not looking for 100% accuracy, just close, like, above 80%.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this flyer, unless you
I
guys have
think,
anything
I
else.
like it, other than maybe adding that you can secure it with
Bungee.
other means, yeah.
Yeah, I'll put that, and then this will go out in, the next quarterly bills, Brandon?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
also in the next monthly bills for the bin customers.
Okay, and the businesses are already on track with it all already, so we don't.
Yeah, businesses are on track other than their green waste barrels, which we're trying to get that figured out. A lot of it is they got the green waste barrel and they're getting stolen or lost. So we're going to move towards, hey, they either need to get a bin or lock their barrels up. The business needs to do their part of making sure that they're doing their due diligence to keep those barrels and use them correctly.
Yeah, it really is on the user of the containers to keep them secure and stored properly. We've been very, very lax with everybody in the community, especially the businesses. We started this in 2017 in the business side, but we are going to start going around again and just having those one-on-ones like, hey, can you keep this locked? Would you mind storing this barrel somewhere securely, even if it's like chained up to the bin? Just
Secure it somehow.
something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're expensive, and so the more theft, the more costs for the service, and so if everybody's doing a little bit better job, we can hopefully have a good impact on the rates.
Thank you, and I see our accounts are on the next page.
Yeah, that's our quarterly
This is
report.
low.
That's our first quarter of the year. I do want to point out that I think this is the first time we have a report that shows organics diversion.
Correct.
Oh my goodness, the numbers, did we have some positive numbers there?
And our recycling diversion is also up. So we still have a ways to go, but there's some numbers on the board.
Yep.
Looks like all the numbers are going in the right direction.
Yes.
Yes. The counts have gone way up. So, a little over 5,700.
Bins are going down, it looks like.
Yeah, because it's cost effective to have barrels.
Yeah, we expected that, right?
And you can't put everything in the bin now. So why would you want a bin? There's very little trash when you do the sorting. And if there's any questions, either Brandon or myself can answer them.
I like the numbers, thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
of course.
Good job.
Very- And for you for the promotion over the years, thank you.
Yeah, I like to point out we had less than 3,000 customers when I started here.
Yep.
And I knew that these regs were coming starting, early 2016. And it's like, it'd be less painful if we have more people already doing the service.
I think it's cool too to point out too the commercial count growth. So I
Yes.
guess that kind of, it does two things. One, it shows the growth of the community, but it also shows that we're trying to make sure that anything that is commercial is being billed as commercial. So if you're building a house and you have a construction site, that's technically a commercial bin. So making sure that we bill that correctly kind of helps everything too. But it definitely shows the growth of community because we've gone up quite a bit. in
Yeah.
Just 6 months.
Yeah, during the downturn, we saw, a lot of the commercial go down, like significantly down, so.
It's nice to see that we're having
Kind
some
of
bounce
a
back.
interesting economic indicator, right?
Yeah.
The state of the health of the communities can be seen through this.
For replacement containers, what causes people to have to get their container replaced? What's the most
Most common one is a damaged lid.
damaged?
And that's usually from it blowing over in the wind and smashing the lid and breaking it. There's still a lot of old trash barrels because they kept all the trash barrels, right? So a lot of those are still out there. So if it gets brittle, it'll break. A truck accidentally dropping it into there. Neighbors stealing it. That seems to happen quite a bit more lately. I don't know why. Like I had Rick from Snowline text me today. Like, is there a reason my barrel's missing from my house? I'm like, we didn't take it. He's like, I knew my neighbor did. I'm like, I don't know why he did it. So
Knew he had an extra.
those are the top reasons.
Yeah,
It just
we
looks like that number went up in month 3.
Oh, yeah.
51's a lot. Yeah.
well, we
Yeah.
were losing our barrels here,
Yep.
so we swapped out our barrels for a bin because it's much more difficult to walk around town with.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like pushing it down the street.
No, it was like every week.
Yeah.
And this one guy would come and he would take them, and I'm sure they ended up at one of the recycling centers.
Yeah, I got one right behind the or over by the gym right now, behind the animal hospital or whatever. I was driving over here, and I saw it laying there next to the bins, and I know that they have a trash bin and a recycle bin, so I know that recycle barrel's not supposed to be there because I know the accounts, and I'm like, well, I got to pick that up on the way out. They just end up all over the place.
At least somebody knew, like, logically that might be where it goes.
Yeah.
I bet that's close. Close, yes. It says recycling. Recycling.
It's not in the middle of the desert.
Yeah. It has pavement close to it for you.
Yeah.
Or in the bushes.
Okay, on to, you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'm good with all that. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's move on to update, but that was the update. Review of quarterly haulers report. We went over that. Draft franchise agreement.
So we already went over a portion of this at the last meeting. However, there's been a little change since then. So I won't spend too long on the CPI amendment because we kind of got into that. But our accountant has agreed that we can use the annual metric because they really have heartburn with using the date that we use. But we are maintaining that it should be the less energy metric. So I think we have come to consensus with CR&R on that. And
Simplest
so
path.
if you guys are fine with that, that's what we will move forward with.
It
So,
sounds good to me. It's
so
the
this year we're
easiest-
using the November 30th metric, but starting next year, it's going to be the annual. In the end, it doesn't matter, over time, but we're fine. We're willing to concede that.
I think it's great that we clarified that, and we won't have to worry about that in the future.
I think so too. And then the other thing that was brought to our attention is that the bad debt in our area for residential customers is pretty high. So we are going to start disconnecting service for people that are 60 days past due. They can self-haul if they don't want to pay their bill. And then, of course, once they pay their bill, they can have their service reinstated. But anybody who doesn't pay their bill, next year, we would like to be able to do the tax roll process. That's a great way to recover bad debt. And our current franchise agreement only authorizes us to collect commercial bad debt because that was our first mandatory service, right? You can't get out of having commercial service. So even though our solid waste ordinance already authorizes us to do the collection of bad residential debt, CR&R would like it in our franchise agreement, and I don't blame them. I would also like it in the franchise agreement. And so we have added that language in there. So if you look on page, I think it's 13, 13. We just changed it, so it's just contractor and district. So who does what? We got rid of the residential commercial delineation, and it just says the contractor will attempt to cover debt, so they can go through their normal collections process first. And then when they're not successful, the district can collect that on the tax rolls. And then we're just going to clarify, and this might change, but by the time it goes to the board, what specifically we need from CR&R in order to complete this process and when we need it by. So that way it's contractual. So if they get it to us too late for us to complete the process, we're not in the wrong.
good to me.
Yeah, so we can already do it by ordinance. We're just gonna add it to the franchise agreement to clarify it. Okay.
So technically, we could do it now, but we're getting a little late in the year. We typically are going to start any type of delinquent process in June. And I just don't think that we'll have all of that together by then. And they already are aware that this is going to be next year. They assumed that already. And so I'm totally comfortable with doing that. And I think now with suspending services at 60 days, it'll help with this bad debt issue that we're having.
Okay, looks good.
So those will go to the board, probably in June, unless you guys are good with it going on the next meeting.
Next board meeting?
Then I can just get it addressed.
So for the next board?
Yeah, that's fine
Yeah,
with
that'll be
me.
next week.
Yeah.
I'm okay
Well,
with
next
that,
week, I
yeah.
thought we canceled next
No,
week.
we're gonna have it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't be at it, so, but I can watch on YouTube.
Yeah, we can catch you up. If you,
Yeah.
since you're on this committee, we can definitely wait until June. There's no rush.
It's not gonna matter either way,
There's
because
no
we're not gonna
rush,
report
yeah,
in
'cause
June, yeah.
These are all for
Yeah.
future problems that we need by the end of the year.
It'd probably be better if I was at the meeting.
That would be my preference. So if
Okay.
you're not there, we will wait.
Because I'm driving, no. I will be,
I think you'll be in
I'll
class.
still be in class, yeah.
So first meeting in June?
First meeting in June, yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds
And
good.
for next week's meeting, I'll catch up by watching YouTube.
Yep.
I always try to keep up, so I'm not lost in the loop of the discussions.
Okay, that was noted and we'll get it calendared.
Okay. And staff review reports.
So I have our April data here. Not too much change from March in terms of total accounts. The self-hauler thing is just remaining steady. About 69, 70% of district customers are CRNR customers. I have noticed that people are spring cleaning because the tonnage at the transfer station has gone way up. Still the same amount of people taking items to the dump, just a lot more.
Additional trips.
Yeah, tonnage is up, the number of hauls is up, but the same unique number of customers is
Fairly
normal.
stable.
Yeah, pretty stable.
It'll be interesting to see how a year's pattern with that goes. And see if we see, after a couple of years, seeing these patterns of behavior.
Yeah, and you know, you can still self-haul even if you have CRNR service, so you're gonna see that number vary, like right after Christmas. Got all those boxes and everything else, but, yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's good. People are cleaning up their properties. And then there's nothing really new and notable activity with us other than, we, just had our art contest and that was really successful. It was really nice to see 11 of the 12 winners show up.
That was
That's like a
good.
That
record
was
for
great,
us.
yeah.
Record number of submissions. And I thought it was really nice that the senator's representative was here to give out certificates
That
too.
was a nice touch for the evening.
Mm-hmm. If there's any questions.
Nope.
Okay. I want to add on at this point, we went down to do the tour last week. Absolutely amazed at what they do down there. Very interested in seeing where the compost goes when it goes to the farms and how all that changes. And see if we see some of their numbers improve, farmers' numbers improve as well. So it'd be interesting to see the end result of all this too.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing is great because the county, they were talking, we are very fortunate in terms of we don't have land use. So we don't have to worry about the procurement portion of SB 1383 where we have to buy all of this mulch, right? Or all of these recovered materials from this process. Because you have jurisdictions like cities and the county even where they don't know what they're going to do with all of this. But I think CRNR had a great solution. They're reaching out to all the farms. And then they are just, here you go. Here's some nice soil amendment.
When they said the amounts, the farmers were like, this is nothing.
Correct, yeah. 'Cause-
They're like, we could totally take this in and use it.
Mm-hmm.
And the piles are nothing compared to what they're usually actually using.
Right.
That, that we have a place for all this to go.
Yeah,
It's
because
amazing.
when you're looking at like a small community like Wrightwood, if they had to do something like that, that would be insane. It's like every property would be like 2 feet of mulch.
Do you have your proper mulch footage?
But they're also exempt from procurement because they don't have land use, so that's good.
I was also impressed at the coal products that they're able to make that is able to be burned in the furnace. They made the product equal to what they need it to be, and is providing energy. And then the natural gas product, it all around turning what was once thought of just only as rubbish into product.
Yeah, they really are getting towards the zero waste threshold. My question for them was, okay, you guys have done this great thing, but we know where regulations are going with natural gas. What are you going to do? Because one of their biggest outputs from what they're doing is creating clean natural gas and putting it on the grid and then putting it in their trucks. But as you're aware, the fleet requirements are all changing. And so they are able, they said, to transform their process from creating natural gas to creating hydrogen. They said it's one atomic arrangement, which they can do with their existing equipment in order to get that done. I'm like, oh, well, that's awesome. And then they're looking to see if they can do a hydrogen fleet because, as you're aware, the electric trucks are insanely heavy. And the power that a truck needs in order to do all of that work, it doesn't exist. This truck isn't built yet. And so I hope that the state sees the light, allows hydrogen as a zero emission vehicle, because that infrastructure could be pretty readily available everywhere.
To build up, yeah.
Yeah.
The build up for that would be a lot easier.
Yeah, because they can use existing gas stations.
If we could, with the natural gas, they could easily be converting all the natural gas over to hydrogen that way.
Yeah, the natural gas vehicles.
To change, it all can switch right over to hydrogen eventually,
Mm-hmm.
which would be amazing.
Yeah, because as you're aware, like electric out here, we're nowhere near any type of feasibility for that.
It's similar to the problems we had 100 years ago with the battery problem. The batteries can have a lot more mileage now, but the sheer amount of batteries we need, we can't even come to production numbers.
Yeah, and just the weight of the vehicle, and really it's just the expense as well. And like, let's not talk about our energy grid and how there's just not enough of it. But so that was really good to hear, because this whole time I'm thinking, wow, they've done all of this work. This is great. They even want to bring the natural gas up here because there's actually a extension just shy of where they're located now and bring us our natural gas vehicles. But why when it's going to be hydrogen?
Would they be able to transport the hydrogen the same way?
I have no idea. I don't know if hydrogen transports via pipeline. This is way outside of my wheelhouse. I think it's more of like a fuel cell thing. From what I understand it, like you basically change out a fuel cell. So you would pull into a gas station and
Like swapping a
swap
battery
them
in a
out,
car-
like
in
a
a toy- in a
propane
toy.
exchange.
Or a
So-
battery and a toy swap. Pull out
But
the battery,
honestly,
put the
don't
one
quote
in.
me on any of that because I am not an expert in any of this, but that
be
is my
interesting to see.
limited understanding.
Big balloon behind the car.
Well, and I've seen, I actually saw one on the road recently. It was a big rig that was hydrogen. This is the first one I've ever seen, and it looked pretty much like a normal truck with the cab, sleeper, and everything. Just powered by hydrogen.
Got a range of 52 miles?
Yeah,
Well, all it was carrying was its own hydrogen.
yeah, exactly.
Better, hopefully we can figure out that solution.
So that's all I have.
And thank you for setting that up. It was
Yeah, my
very
pleasure.
informative. I would hope we can do one at Burtech. We were talking possibly setting
Yeah,
up
we're gonna
to see
work
how they
on
do it.
setting up a Burtech tour just so you can see locally kind of what's happening with our waste. It's because it's different. Like what you see down in Stanton is not what happens to our trash because ours doesn't go there. But it's interesting to see that the technology, and that's pretty widespread throughout Europe. And as they were talking about in China and everywhere else, just because it does create a lot of energy.
It'll be interesting to see what the future opens up for us. Okay, are you good with that? I'm good. Okay, review of action items, prior meeting,
There were none.
current meeting.
I'm going to be taking our franchise amendments to the board in June and then stand by for a tour with Burtech. So I'll send out some dates to propose to you guys to see when you want to go.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, then we'll set agenda for the next meeting, pretty much the same?
Yeah, I think so, other than we won't have a quarterly report.
Okay.
And we
And
might
that'll
not
be
have
June-
franchise amendments by then.
So that'll be June 19th. Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.